Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to be here with you all today. This is my first time recording an interview, and I just got the inspiration when I saw one of my sound healing students just blossoming and expanding in her path and service. And so I'm really excited for the conversation that we're going to have today. Today we're talking with Jennifer Henry. And Jennifer first came into my sphere when she did the Astro Empowerment course. And then when I was doing Shamanic Star Sound in its first iteration, it was an 8-week course, and she hopped in for that. And then I reformatted the Shamanic Star Sound offering into it was an 8-month certification. Now it's a 9-month certification. Always iterating and growing. And Jennifer saw that and answered the call and had a really powerful journey. We're going to get into her journey in the certification. And then I just watched her I just watched, to me, sound is like a spirit guide, and it's a very dear friend of mine and a teacher of mine. And I just saw it swoop her under its wings, and just blessings upon blessings, and her path of service just expanded exponentially. And knowing her journey through the certification and seeing what kind of results she was having, I was like, we got to have a conversation about this because this is amazing. So Jennifer, I'd like just for you to introduce yourself and to share whatever resonance. I know I saw you smiling, whatever resonance and sparkles were threads that were plucked in your instruments from that introduction.
So yes, thank you so much, Rakai'el, for reaching out. I was so honored because I definitely feel like I've blossomed, and just in the courses that I took with you, I still was always in the background. And sometimes I would be reluctant even to join because I didn't want to speak on camera or anything. And then like through it all, um, now I'm in front of people doing sound, which yeah. I thought I was doing sound to help incorporate into my one-on-one sessions. It actually was not my intention to do group work. Yeah, but I am so grateful now.
So amazing, so amazing. Well, so just tell us, we'll start in the present, and then we'll kind of go back in time so that people can get a sense of your transformation. Um, so tell us now, so kind of like post certification, I remember when you did your first, was it for the solstice?
Um,
Or
I
is
did
it
well, I did some like for friends um at a local yoga studio, and I think it was for new moon. And then I did do a bigger one. Oh yes, the one with the acupuncture clinic was the solstice one. That was like my big stepping out. Yes. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so how was that for you, right? Because that was, you said you weren't expecting to do group work. And so how did the whole process unfold when she asked you, or like what was that whole process like?
Um, well, for within the class, I would practice with friends in my home, and then um I don't know, it was kind of just like spirit was just pushing through me like I would just have this idea, oh, okay, more friends want to do it. I don't have space in my home. So then uh, I just found this yoga studio that was 5 minutes from my home and you could just rent it. And so I just did that. So I started doing those, like, I think it was like the weekend after the course ended. So it just happened to be. And then I was talking with my lovely business coach who is amazing. And she said, I think you should talk with the acupuncturist and kind of collaborate. And I was like, yeah, yeah. And then I went to my appointment right after that. And I said, so sorry, I haven't been in. I've been really in this class and doing all this stuff for sound healing. And she said, oh, would you like to come? And I was like, oh, okay. It was less than like 40 minutes from the time it was suggested. And so then it just grew. And um, every time they put out a newsletter announcing the next one, it sells out in like 20 minutes. And I'm so grateful, and it's created such a community. Yeah, which I never expected again to be in that that being seen space. I've always tried to be in the background. Yeah. So
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, it was like really, really just like such a blossoming that happened. Um, so then you were doing those. So how often were you all doing those?
so the ones at the clinic, I was just doing, and I still am just doing like at the solstice or equinox, to bring in the seasons and with the, traditional Chinese medicine and how they honor the seasons. And then I found another place that does, it's a metaphysical shop, and they just opened last year, and it's a beautiful space, and they have event space. And I did my first event there on Lionsgate, and it was their first event, and it sold out, and it was one of the most magical nights ever. It was just spirit coming through, definitely with the sound, and everyone felt it, and I was so grateful. And so now I do more of them there. And then my friend Kindle, who's the acupuncturist, we do some there as well. So it's a lot of collaboration, and again, community. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And then so many people are just having the ritual, the repetition of the ritual of being able to come together and see familiar faces and creating that community support. It's just so beautiful. It goes beyond sound, it's the space and the container that you're holding. Mm.
And I will say too that the way the way you teach sound and the way that it goes into that very shamanic journey, um, the feedback I've gotten is just people really feel it when they go into that space and they feel the journey, which is so profound. And so the whole learning process, and the way you teach it and the formula you have was just yeah, it's amazing. Mhm.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we have to credit Joseph Campbell to that too.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just the heroines with a thousand faces, you know? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. I love that, right? Because are there a lot of people doing sound offerings in your community?
There actually are. There's quite a few. Um, so yeah, all different types though. There's sound baths, there's vibrational sound healing, there's yeah, it's a whole range. But we definitely there is a difference with the journey.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So you and I know like what that is like, what that difference is. But even perhaps I don't know if you've had people in your community share about the differences or it's kind of like the people who come to your sound ceremonies, what is it that they share with you or that draws them into that space that makes them choose that compared to some of the other events that are in the community?
Well, from feedback I've gotten, they'll say at the end, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I could go on that journey. And they'll share, you know, w- what happened, what they saw, all of these things, and just the whole journey. And which they'll, consistently say it's so different from other sound healing events that I've gone to, and which always makes me feel grateful that I'm able to provide that. Yeah. Um, and then especially when we add the acupuncture with it, it's heightened like so much. Hmm.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And of course, yeah, it's like I used to be an acupuncturist. And so it's like I know that it's that the space of vulnerability when you let people put needles in you, it just amplifies your receptivity so much. So I love that you're weaving those together. Um, and so we're just painting the picture of kind of like what your life has transformed and evolved into. So from what I've heard you say, so you're at the acupuncture clinic, you're doing kind of like cross quarters for the solstice and the equinoxes. And then there's another yoga studio that you're.
So I'm not doing at the yoga studio anymore
Mhm.
because I transitioned into the metaphysical
Oh, right,
studio
the metaphysical shop. Right,
event
right, right.
space.
Right. So then, so how often are you doing ceremonies at the metaphysical spot?
It was a few times a month, and then now it's 1 to 2 times a month because then I'm transitioning into continuing there because I love it, and then also creating my own space. So,
Which is super exciting.
uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh, would you like to tell us about this, you creating your own space and what this endeavor, how this magic carpet ride, where it's taken you?
Yes. So, my mom believes in my dream and helped me purchase a home that we are closing on next week. And um, it has everything that I put down on paper that I needed for a living space as well as a space for clients and group work and one-on-one. And so it's just amazing. The whole lower floor is for the group space and the one-on-one, and that's exactly what I wanted. And it's just amazing how it came to be. And yeah, I don't know that I even have words, because a year ago I wouldn't have thought of finding a place for group work. But in October and November, we actually were looking since the summer though, because once I started doing the sound healing, it was it was just unfolded that that's what I would need. Um, and then in October and November, I traveled and then was sick and had to cancel quite a few events. And I didn't know how much I would miss it. And I really missed the space of working with sound and working with sound for and with people. Yeah. Um, so this space I'm hoping to do more regular, and then have the special events at other places. Mhm.
So you're visualizing like kind of smaller regular group sessions in the big group space in the downstairs area, and then you have your one-on-one room as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then doing, bigger events in
Mhm.
out for the community.
Yes. Yeah.
Your whole life is sound now.
I know. I've even done sound healings for my dental office, because I'm
Yeah.
also a dental hygienist. And it's a large office. We have 20 some people employed, and my boss let me do it for coworkers, and it was beautiful and lovely. And I'm so grateful to be in a space where I ask, can I offer this? And like, yeah. Hmm.
So amazing. So all of this has unfolded because this time last year, so right now when we're having this conversation, it's middle of January 2023. So this time last year, we were 5 months into an 8-month journey. And so so literally like all of this stuff, so it was like May when you started doing your first. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And then you did the solstice in June. Yeah.
Hmm.
So this is like, so since you graduated, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January. So this is 9 months. You're having a baby.
Yeah.
It's your house.
Yes. Yes.
Like, did you have any idea that like 9 months later after you completed the certification that your life would look like this?
No. No. I I knew I wanted to transition more into my energy healing and do more and more of that. And I still love that. And I love the one-on-ones, and I do intuitive energy healing and crystal healing and sound, and I integrate all of it in one, because to me I can't separate any of them with the way that I work. So I knew that, but the level, no, I didn't. I would never have. I mean, there were a few times in the class where I was like, I really want to quit. I really don't know if I can finish. Hmm. Because, well, you know, to finish something is is a whole, is a whole thing. And also, I choose teachers who expect a lot and who are structured in a loving way. Um, but because I need structure, but then I want to rebel against it and quit. But I didn't. You're very supportive, so I didn't quit. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. Hmm.
That was like that, like, because it's true, right? It was like every time you would turn in your homework, you would be like, I don't know. I feel like this isn't for me. Like, it's too intense. Like, I'm having anxiety, right? It's like, maybe this is not my path. It's like, maybe I can't do it. And then to see what happened, that it was just like, wow, like sound really, really, really rewarded you. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I also had to remember how of course, we want um, to be our very best self every time, and also be okay with not being perfect and just doing it. And so the first few months, I read everything. I had even like, hello, my name is Jen, I had on paper. Because that's the hardest part for me. It's not even the playing, it's the speaking in front of people. And so now I still write down, I still have things written down, and I definitely read from the astrology portion that I want to speak about, but it's not, I can remember my name and other things, but yeah. But if I had kept that from me even trying, I just, my bowls would be collecting dust. And yeah, and I love them so much. And so I'm grateful that they're not.
Absolutely. And so many other people are as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's just kind of like go back to even because I feel like that because I just really want to because I just really I really wanted to have this conversation so that other people who have your experience, because I see so many students who have this same experience where it's like they're drawn to sound healing because they love it, they think it's beautiful, they've had many beautiful experiences with it when other people are facilitating. And there's also this kind of idea that it's like, well, it's not about me, it's about the bowls or it's about the instruments, and so it's a way in which I can show up and serve, but I kind of get to hide behind the instruments. And because so we use the format, a variation of the format of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, um to navigate the ceremonies. And so but it's the transition from the human to the non-human world. And there's a lot of different factors that go into that to support people in making that transition and feeling safe, to enter this uh, mysterious acoustic field of vibrations where their logical mind can't drive anymore. And that's very disconcerting for many people. Um, and so, but it's kind of like it's mirrored in your own journey, because it was like, when you start seeing that pattern, you start seeing it everywhere. And so, so I would really love for you to just kind of share, even when you started to do the first Shamanic Star Sound, when it was 8 weeks, and you said that you were more kind of behind the scenes, and so like just tell us about kind of like your experience with choosing to do that course and what your experience was like in there. um we'll just start there. Yeah.
Hmm. Um, to be honest, I don't remember why I chose it. I mean, I always, ever since I took your first astrology course, I love the way you teach. It makes sense to me. You're so engaging. Um, and then it was during COVID. when I did the first one, and it came up, and I said, yeah, I want to do some sound, because again, I had experienced sound healing and I loved it. And so I was just dipping my toes in, and again, to be like, oh, maybe I'll play a bowl or two with my energy healing sessions. And then I honestly didn't finish the 2-month course because I I didn't, I was nervous to speak on camera. And so I would be like, oh, I don't know, maybe not this class, I won't show up. And then I just didn't. And so that's kind of how I chose that one and then didn't finish it. But then I did continue purchasing bowls and playing with them. And then once I moved and to Colorado, I was on the East Coast at that time. And when I moved to Colorado, I remember I was up late at night and I was scrolling on my phone and I saw your email come through with the certification course. And I clicked on it right away and everything in me said yes. And I signed up right away. And I didn't know why everything in me said yes. And but there was something about the container of it being that longer span, and also the certification does help me to complete things. And and I also, I love that you incorporated astrology and tons of other healing modalities within it that I already loved. And, even just the color therapy, not just, but color therapy, essential oils, the astrology, the lights, all the things. And it was all encompassing for the experience and learning to create that, with the sound being like the main star.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I love creating immersive environments, whether that's for a sound ceremony or for a course, it's like I love to, that's how I like to learn, I just go all in. Yeah. Um, so so tell us a little bit about, because I just want other people to make sure that they see themselves, it's like as if they have the same kind of fears or
Mhm.
worries or things like that. Um, it's not like let's talk about all your fears, but I just know that there are so many people who've been in a similar place where it's like they feel nervous to be on camera, or they feel nervous to be in front of people. And because what you were talking about before in the first Shamanic Star Sound, when it was just 8 weeks, was actually just being on camera in a Zoom Q&A session, right? It wasn't like you were the teacher or leading anything. It was like just being on video as a participant in the Zoom. Like that's where you were at, and that's fine, because that's where a lot of people are at. But just like that whole journey, that it's like, you started from that place of shyness, and so then as we, because then, so you apparently overcame that during the certification, because I remember seeing your face.
Had to do it.
Yeah, in class.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So how was that kind of like shifting for you slowly as we were going through the certification, just even like being seen like on camera as a participant in a Zoom class?
Mhm. Um, I don't know. I think even though it was only like a year and a half difference, um, I think I felt more ready, but then also um just like the container, and also like I saw the other classmates being vulnerable and open, and just that desire to learn. And I couldn't do that if I wasn't present. And I think it was the first class where it was like, I don't know if it was setting intention, but speaking on what we hoped we would bring. And I said I wanted to be present. And to me, that meant even just showing up on camera and being there. And I do know even when I would ask questions, my voice would shake a lot still. And but your willingness to, I still felt seen. And so then over time it it got me to a place where I could be more seen. That makes sense. hmm Um, and just the repetition of being in the space and being on camera and with the same people who are supportive, and that very held space. Yeah. hmm
Beautiful. And so I'm so glad that you felt seen and that you felt held in that space that we all co-created together. Yeah. And so in those, if you remember back, because I feel like there were maybe 3 or 4 emails where you were like, I can't do it. I'm gonna quit. So and do you remember like what was coming up for you in those different times where you were like, I can't.
hmm Um, I don't remember all the times. I think maybe one or two, it was just I felt like I didn't have time. But then, but I feel like that was more of an excuse. And I do remember um it was times when I had to show up more. So when we needed to record a meditation coming from ourselves, that one I was like, I'm out. I can't do it. I can't do it. And but I had friends also that were like, just do it. Like, you've gone this far, just do it. And so I just did it, and I turned it in, and I was like, I don't know. And then same with the final. I actually was gonna just not do it. And because the final, as you know, was recording a full sound healing journey and speaking in front of the camera and doing the whole journey. And I just did not think I had it in me. And yep, I was going to quit. So I think I did it. I turned it in, I believe, on the very last night. And that was only because my best friend was like, you cannot not do this. You will be so upset with yourself. But it was about being seen and feeling like I couldn't do it, and feeling like there was just no way that I could do it properly enough or perfect enough. And so I didn't want to turn anything in.
That perfection paralysis is such a beast.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm just so glad that you did, and it was so beautiful to see what you created, because like you went all in, you did the whole journey, like kind of fairy journey with the flowers, And you wore this beautiful fairy dress, and you had your little diadem crown, and you had really decked out your whole space. And so was like, tell us about your creative process in there in creating that.
Well, I do feel a connection with the fairy realm. And so you and I, we did speak about that because I did feel lost on where to go with the journey for that one. And but once we spoke about it, I was like, oh, I could go on a, fairy journey, and that felt really lovely. And so then, yeah, I just wanted to create my space to make it look kind of fairy realm-ish with fairy lights and plants and um uh, fabric and lighting, the best that I could do it in my home, and to create that like whole bit. The working with Zoom part was difficult for me. But I think it was important to learn, you know. Um, yeah. So
And then I remember getting your email when you turned it in, and you were like, "Ah, and I forgot to do this, and I forgot to do that." And you're just like, "Ah, like here it is." And so just for anybody who might be, in that same way where it's kind of like, yeah, like we learn the structure, we learn this format, to give you kind of a framework, right? So that you feel held, so you're not just like, "Woo, I'm just gonna create whatever." Um, Even though that's possible too. But m- but like the like kind of like navigating the place, because what I feel like I'm hearing you say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is I feel like I'm hearing you say that it's kind of like this structure and the like format that we use for a sound ceremony um was at times helpful, and at times like a piece of grounding that you could kind of like hold on to, and then at other times kind of like, oh no, like I didn't do it perfect because I didn't do all the things that are in the structure. So could you just share kind of like the dichotomy of those two experiences?
yeah. Um, I think again that's the perfection, wanting to do it perfectly, and oh, I forgot this part that I'm supposed to do, instead of just allowing it to be within the structure, and however it comes out in that moment is how it's meant to be. And but I was still very much in that learning phase of think needing it to be perfect, and kind of like letting you know that I know that I messed up. That I know what I'm supposed to do, and I knew that I didn't. It's just that perfectionism that was getting me caught up in in the structure, that I actually am super grateful for for the structure now. And most of the time when I finish a sound healing, I'll be like, oh, I think next time I want to try this. But it doesn't feel now like, oh, I messed up. It's more like, oh, next time I'm going to, play with something a little differently. And so it comes from that fun, um, still place of learning, but place of, however it's meant to be will be coming through at that time. And know that each time I get better, and it creates even more of an experience for people, and be okay with still learning. I mean, we're always learning.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, 100%, 100%. It's kind of like it feels like a like you're experimenting. You're like, "Ooh, like okay, so then I did this and then this happened. So now I'm formulating a new hypothesis that if I do this next time, then this will happen. So I can't wait to do the experiment again to gather more data to see what happens."
Yeah. hmm And I will say a huge, to me, profound difference with the way um, like you do sound healing and the way you taught it was the relationship with silence. And because even now, when I do go to other sound healings, um, I I crave the silence and the time to integrate. And I still work with integrating that more into my sessions because again, silence feels awkward. And it's getting more and more an integral part of my ceremonies. Um and I definitely miss it when I go and it's not there. Mhm.
Yeah, gosh, it's like, I mean, like, it's like we say that we're working with sound, but it's like, that silence is just as much of a mentor and a teacher for us. Um, and I think that I think you just like hit the nail on the head, as they say, that it's like being able to take up space with no performance, you know. Um it's not something that's actually like part of our modern culture, like we're taught that we have to be proving our value through performing in some way or through action or contribution or doing. And so both as practitioners and as receivers, it really gives us this experience, whether we're witnessing this and feeling that pause in the ceremony where it's still so held, because those times when you've been in a ceremony and you feel you there's a moment of silence, but you can like hear a little rustling or like something, like the person's trying to like get their shit together.
Mhm.
Like that's when I feel the most scared. In ceremonies that I go to, I'm like, oh God, they don't know what they're doing. But when it's like, you finish playing an instrument and you don't move, it's like you just like you can feel the reverberation of the silence actually materializing in the space. Do you feel that?
I do. Although it's still like I'm still working on on the silence part. So I will hold it and then I'll start moving toward the next thing. And but I actually really like that you mentioned that because even when you just spoke it right then, I felt it. I was like, oh, yes. I need to, I am going to do that next time, which is exciting to me. I'm like, oh, because I felt it. And then I want to create that. hmm And so even though we did, we worked with silence in that, um, in our course, there's a difference between then and then me even working with incorporating it and being okay with it. there's the difference to that, and then how I felt when you just shared it right then. I'm like, oh, I see. I feel it now. And I feel like then I can hold that space differently now. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, this is so juicy. I love it so much. So is it two parts here? Because so I feel like, and even the difference in those spaces right now, it's kind of like when I just had that moment, it's kind of like you can hear the rustling of my thoughts, because I'm trying to like formulate exactly how I'm going to say the next thing. But then when I pause and I really, because I felt it too, it was as if silence was like right here, and it was like whoa, 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 like I literally felt the waves of it. um so it's so the first thing I feel like I want to just call to everyone's awareness here is that well, I guess there's three things. So number one is the embodiment of our practice with the medicine, of silence and of sound, because it's one thing to logically know that, you know, it's okay to have a moment of silence, that you don't have to fill the entire ceremony with sound. um and and then there's the embodiment of it, you know, where it's like to really be able to hold that. And I think that the in your energy is like in your aura, you know, you're holding that in your aura, your confidence to be able to allow silence to have its space and not be afraid of it, and actually like welcome it. um and then the second piece that's kind of still a piece of that is that, you know, it's like the more like I really truly do feel like sound and silence are like two of my main spirit guides. Like to me they are entities, they are beings. And so I feel like that from my own practice, it just took analyzing this moment that just happened, that we were both like, whoa.
It was so palpable. Like, yes.
Oh, so good when you like speak the same language with someone. You're like, wow, did you see that? Did you see that?
Yes.
So I'm just celebrating you, that you've like developed such a fluency with this language that you were able to feel that, you know, that moment of silence. Um, so, but I feel like that moment was so, I was able to like really like hold that space for silence to come in that way, because just so much recently, actually on our last Cancer full moon sound ceremony that we did, there it was, you know, because Cancer, the quintessence of the energy of Cancer is safety. And so it's, as a ceremonial facilitator, feeling safe with silence, right? Feeling safe with sound, feeling safe with silence. And so that was, so I didn't even play very many instruments. And I played the instruments that I did play for a long time, you know, just to be like, I'm chill. I'm chill. I don't feel like I have to perform. Like we're gonna sit with this instrument, and I'm not going to switch instruments, because that's the thing too, right? Is going from instrument to instrument to instrument. It's like there's a cadence that can also not let people go as deep. So it just depends on your intention, you know.
Mm-hmm.
um but it really is like the more comfortable that we get in our own practice with these beings, these entities of sound and silence, that people are able to feel our relationship with them, you know. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so it's almost kind of like, you know, like people, like come here to Hawaii, and they're like, oh, where's the waterfall, blah blah blah, and I'm like, you can't just go. You need someone to introduce you. You can't just walk up to the door of the waterfall and be like, ding dong, I'm here. It's like, because when you go with someone who has a relationship with that waterfall, your experience of that waterfall is so much more vibrant and deep because you feel their relationship and their intimacy with that place. That you would never ever get if you just like rolled up, to that waterfall. so
Yeah.
so it's the same. That's why we have a practice of our own. That's why we continue to do ceremonies, is not only for other people but for our own practice. um because there's certain things that practicing in front of other people will catalyze from within you that you can't get when you practice by yourself.
Yes. 100%. There's it's just something different. Yeah. And I will say, also, this is kind of on another tangent, but my ability to hold space is becoming stronger. So when I would first do a sound ceremony, I would come home and like my whole body was vibrating. I couldn't sleep. It was, just, and also, again, when I first started, I would be like, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. And then it was just, oh, the body vibrating, for hours. And now it's just like, okay. And it's getting to that space of being able to hold space for a set amount of people while creating the journey with the sound. Yeah, I feel like that was a tangent, but it felt important.
Totally, absolutely, so important. Because I mean, like, that's the three parts, of what we study in the Shamanic Star Sound certification is sound, stars, and holding space, right? Ceremonial facilitation. Because what we do is different than like a sound bath. It's it it has a structure that has to be held in a particular way. um and the more comfortable you feel in holding that structure, not only for yourself but for other people, um the deeper you can go, the deeper that the participants can go. So it really, and it's like when you don't have as much fallout afterwards, right? That it's like you can clean up your stuff and go home and do your cord cutting and your clearing process, and then be like, okay, great, we're done. I can go to bed now.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And it took a while, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, 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 totally. um
And
and
oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, please continue.
Oh, well, I was just saying too, how you were saying, the relationship with the waterfalls and the relationship with the instruments. And I think that was very important when in our first class we introduced ourselves and our instruments. Or maybe it was our second class, in the beginning. And it felt very yeah, you're introducing, these are my friends, these are my allies. And then you got to meet everyone else's. And then it was so cool how, you know, certain people would have similar instruments and then others would have similar you know, you have that different resonance, and just forming that relationship with the instruments and them being our allies and not just like tools. That, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Oh my goodness. Like, oh, my instruments have taught me so much, where it's like, I think there's 5 different ways I play the ocean drum now. It's like, and I expect more, It's like that's the nature of our relationship. And I think that's also I've always had this energy, just like, in the beginning when we had well, we still have labs, like we have labs in the I want it to be like a science experiment, like I really do. Like, let's put our safety goggles and play the sound bowl. Like,
Totally. Yeah. It's funny though. I mean, I guess this is with most things, but in the beginning, like labs felt hard for me because to experiment when I don't know anything seems hard. But then, like we were talking about earlier, the more comfortable I get, the more I'm like, oh, I could try this or that. And now I'm like, oh, labs sound fun. Mm-hmm. Because the perfectionism has dropped a lot.
greatest gifts that sound could give you, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Right? It's like, do you feel like sound healed you while you were on this journey?
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even just, not just, even the part about being seen, it's huge for me. I went 4 years with my energy healing Instagram page, and I think I had 4 posts. And now, I post so much more, and because I really want to share it. And so if that means being seen, then that means being seen, and stories, and there's still um a lot more for me to be at a level where I'd like to be with being seen. And I feel like sound will only help me even more. Hmm. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, 100%. It's like I think that we have this because sound healing is mostly presented from the receiver, perspective, that it's like, oh, you would go to a sound healing so that you could lay down and you could, receive a healing or heal yourself, however you want to say that. But I mean, like, yeah, it's like, because, you were doing sound healings before just in the receiver, right? You were going to sound
Yes.
healing. So if you look, I feel like you just answered this question, but I just want to like drive it home. But if you look at your healing path and your healing journey, how, if you could go back in time and if you decided not to do the certification and you just decided, I'm just going to go to as many sound healings as I can as a receiver, and then thinking about how your life, how you've been healed in probably ways you didn't even know you needed to be healed,
Mhm.
as a result of stepping into the role as a facilitator. Um, what is that juxtaposition like for you?
I mean, there's there's like no comparison in the level that I have been able to heal within myself being the facilitator and being able to step into that role, and also within that role creating my relationship with sound, which makes it even that much more deeper. even when I'm receiving sound. So, yeah. Just exponentially, like there's not even a world where I could compare it. Yeah.
And that's saying something.
And I will say too, several years ago, I had one of my friends that I would go to his sound healings, and he's an amazing sound healer. And we were friends, and one time he was like, "Do you want to play one of the bowls?" And I was like, "No, no," because I was too afraid. I was so afraid that I would like play it wrong or like do something wrong. And I was like, "No, I'm good." And yeah, I never thought any of this would be in my life in this way. Mhm.
But you had no idea how much you needed it.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, gosh, yeah, sometimes I just look at my instruments and I'm like, God, like, thank you, like, because it was the same for me, they just kind of came into my life and it just kind of swooped me off on a magic carpet ride. And it's just like, gosh, like, thank you so much for finding me, in this life. Like, because we talk about that, your relationship with your instruments, and it's kind of like they're crystals, right? It's like all crystals, right? They I feel like as soon as they come out of the earth, they're like, all right, I'm on the hunt. Like, who am I? I'm meant to be with this person. How am I going to get there? Okay, I got to get in a truck. I got to go to Mount Shasta. I got to get this person to buy me so I'll be all sparkly. And then I'm going to go in their pocket, but then I'm going to jump out. And then someone's going to find us. They have this whole plan, So I feel like as much as like, we're wanting to be, or like even just like having this fantasy, like wow, that would be cool to, you go to a sound healing and you're like, wow, that would be cool to be that person, and have that life where you get to go places and play these instruments. Wouldn't that be cool? Not even knowing that it was like that's already the whisper of the instruments who are like, I'm coming for you.
They're already ready, and I was just like, "Duh, duh, duh. I'll just go and receive." Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I just am so grateful, and there is something about sound and the instruments that kind of just like swoop you into it, and then it's just like you're like on the journey, like completely spirit is moving through you, with you, alongside you, like all the ways, and you're just like on it, and you're just on the journey. And that's absolutely how I have felt with the sound journey from the time of, starting with you, even in the first 8-week course, because I still continued purchasing bowls, even though I didn't finish. Mhm.
They were coming for you.
They were.
Yeah. Well, so looking back, do you kind of have are there certain kind of like maybe like mile markers where you could like feel the momentum of what would be like sweeping you off to buy a house dedicated to sound healing?
Um, I don't know if there was like one specific mile marker.
Or there could be several.
Yeah. I mean, so definitely I found I wanted to do like, even when I first started and was going to the yoga studio, I was like, oh, this is hard to constantly pack up and unpack, because that is my least favorite part by far. And I was like, this is really hard. And the more I did it, the more I realized I do want this in my life. and I have to make it easier. And so even though I'm more used to it now, to be, and I still want to do it at other places, but to be able to have a set space, um, that was like the main thing. So I would say that was like even just within the first few times of doing it, and when I could feel that it was becoming a thing, and even just, like that story of my friend saying, you should collaborate with an acupuncturist. And then 40 minutes later, she's like, you should do it here. Like when there were like clear messages that saying, and here you are. It's like, okay, here I am. And um and again, just being given and shown spaces and people and the community. um I would say the Lionsgate one was also a big one for me, because I felt that deeply, and the need to um, continue to have it in my life in a space that was more than just like um, not just, but yeah, just that was more. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a big, it's a big motivating factor to not have to schlep all the stuff everywhere. But it's also like there's a rhythm to it. It's all a ceremony. It's like when you get yourself organized and you have your flow and everything, it just becomes like a dance that you're doing. You're just like, okay, and then we do this, and then we do this. And it really helps to have help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's when I was first starting out with my sound healing partner, Rakai'el, we would say like, we do the sound healings for free. We get paid to schlep all this stuff.
Yeah, it takes just as much time.
Right. And this is also, something people don't think about. We talk about this in class, is that, you know, if you're doing it that way, it's like, and I just think in general anyways, but it's like you need to take care of your physical instrument, right? So that it's like you're not going to throw your back out while you're carrying your bowls. It's like you really need to take care of your physical body so that you can carry these instruments and move them around in a safe way for you and for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, it's just like anything, it's like when you take care of an instrument, it teaches you more, whether that's your body or a flute, it's like, yeah,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think there's also, again, I think something about, like, I already knew we were looking for a home like during that Lionsgate one, but um I really felt like, oh, I want community here and community like in my space. And that feels very important to me, to have that, and to be able to create that also while nurturing the other communities and other spaces. And yep, I never thought I would say that. Mhm.
Oh, right. Like I can't even go from, being on camera in a Zoom class to standing in front of, lots of people and talking, and sharing and talking about the astrology, right? It's like talking about the astrology, doing the guided meditation. It's like I think it's important, it's important for the facilitator to have their active role in the ceremony, in the beginning and the end, and for it not just to be the instruments the whole time, because it's like it just gives you that sense. I'm the same way as you, where it's like I thrive with teachers who are firm and structured, like my favorite teacher in but also like radical, it's like my favorite teacher in acupuncture school was this Russian guy. He had big gauges and he had tattoos everywhere, like a big kind of like thick guy. And he was like, you come in here, I'm locking the door. It's like you can't come in late. If you're knocking on the door after, I'm not going to answer. If I see you on your phone, you have to leave, and it was like, I was like, oh, he's serious. Okay. Like, all right.
Oh,
I felt like, okay, like that means that like we're going to learn something. you know?
yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's the same way for facilitators, for ceremonies, where it's kind of like, okay, like we're starting, we're gonna lock the door. Like if you need to leave, go out the back. Here's the bathroom. Put your water bottle away, put your keys away, like turn your phone off, right? If you snore, we're gonna tap you and wake you up. It's like kind of like you're giving people this parameters of kind of like we're going somewhere, so like these are the security protocols, and the safety measures in the beginning. And so then they're like, oh, all right, like that. It's kind of like when you are firm in the beginning and you are kind of like outlining like there are these safety measures. It's not just like this like pretty musical experience that you're just going to lay down and fall asleep for. It's like, no, we have work to do, and so like it requires your participation. Um it automatically is giving them permission to go deeper, because they're like, oh, like this is a serious situation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um, mm-hmm. Yeah, for
Mm.
sure.
So looking back
Mm-hmm.
to the Jen that was not very long ago, um, what would be some guidance that you would give to your past self, or to anybody else who might be, in the same way that you were, kind of like feeling interested but feeling shy, and like, and then feeling some like super intense anxiety like along the way? Like what would be your guidance for someone? What would be your guidance? Let's start two different moments here. What would be your guidance for someone who is just starting out on their journey and kind of like, I don't know if this is for me?
I would really say purchase an instrument that you feel called to and take the time to introduce yourself and just play with it and see how it resonates. And if you're feeling called to take a class, take a class. Like dip your toes, because like I said, sometimes playing with it, you might be more reluctant because you feel like you don't know what you're doing. So taking a class really gives you that structure to play some more, and if that's what you're feeling called to, like follow that. I'd say follow it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And
Beautiful.
yeah, and even if it's not a certification class, even if it's just, you know, um, someone giving a class and a little guidance to start and then see where that leads you. Yeah.
Mm,
Mhm.
beautiful, beautiful. And then what would you say to someone who's like in the middle of, whether it's this certification or it's a different certification, or they're on a trajectory, they've stepped out onto the path of becoming a facilitator, and they're having those moments of like like I don't know if this was for me, like I'm so busy now, my life is taking over, or maybe I signed up for the wrong thing, maybe I just need to receive sound healing instead of becoming a facilitator.
Wait, hold on. I lost you. you're back
Okay.
now, but
Okay. Okay. So So what would you say to someone who has stepped onto the path of becoming a sound healing facilitator? Um, whether that's through, the certification that we do or through some other format. Um, and they're having that kind of second guessing of themselves and they're kind of like, oh my gosh, this is so much more involved than I thought it was, or like I'm too busy, like my life is taking over, or I don't know if this is the path for me now that I've gotten onto this path. Maybe I just need to go to more sound healings or just play with my instruments by myself instead of becoming a facilitator. What would you say for that person who's kind of like already like climbed up the high dive and standing on the edge, like who's really confronting like the enormity of, like becoming a facilitator?
um I would say you're on the threshold and just push through and see where it takes you and really um honor yourself and the instruments to finish and to turn in those homework pieces that you don't want to do, that you don't want to be on camera, that you don't want to record yourself, and just do it and see where it takes you. And it doesn't mean you have to do it. It doesn't mean anything except following following through that threshold and then seeing how you feel, and then seeing where sound takes you. Yeah.
Because you never know, it might have you buy a house specifically for sound healing.
You never know.
Oh, what a beautiful journey. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with me and with everyone who's listening. I really just feel like you painted a picture of possibility for people and just really kind of in your own telling of your own story of transformation, from that anxiety to even be on camera in a Zoom class to, recording your fairy sound ceremony and then now leading people in different places for your community and then now welcoming them to your home. It's just like really such a breath of like relief. And it's just like you're a living permission slip.
Thank you. And I will say too that turning, because when I said the turning in the homework, that so that final that I turned in, I still work with that. I still work with the fairy energies. I still work with that journey. It's still a part of me, that bit that was so hard for me to do. And now it's like an old friend.
I love that so much. Oh, right. It's kind of like, you know, like the first time that you do anything, you never forget that. And so yeah, it does stay with us. So I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Oh, well, Jen, thank you for all that you shared here. And we hope that this conversation was helpful, was inspiring, was empowering, was supportive for anybody who might be hearing these words at whatever time in the future that the internet fairies decide to connect you with this conversation. And yeah, if yeah, just really if you're feeling called to the medicine of sound, then listen. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you, Jen. Oh, so grateful for you. Thank you for being here with us. And thank you for everyone who's listening. We appreciate you listening to us. Thank you.